الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. There are decisions that we make as young people and as youth that affect our lives not only in the present but in the future. They affect how we're going to spend the rest of our lives. And most of these decisions are not just focused on you, but these decisions end up shaping the future of our ummah. Now, the generation before us, for those of you whose parents are immigrants, they came to this country and they did whatever they had to do. You know, some of them built masajid, some others, started MSAs and they did whatever they had to do, but their time is gone. And whether they made mistakes or not is irrelevant to us. Whether they raised us upon the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is irrelevant to us at this point. Whether they put the love for the Quran in our heart is irrelevant for us at this point in time. Whether they taught us the teachings of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is irrelevant at this point. But what is relevant is what we do and the decisions we make. For indeed, in another 20 years or 30 years, the generation before us is going to pass. They're going to be gone. And who's going to stand up to the plate? It's going to be us. It's going to be the ones who are at this age, who are growing up and, taking on different professions and doing different things. We are going to be at the head of the Muslim Ummah. And whether we like it or not, the weight of the Muslim Ummah is going to be resting upon our shoulders. Whether we choose to accept this responsibility or not, the Muslim Ummah is going to be resting upon our shoulders. Now, there's a statistic that says the majority of the Muslim Ummah today is under the years of 21 years old. That means most of the Muslims in the world today are young people. They're under the age of 21. That means we make up the majority, more than 50% of this Ummah. So this is how our decisions and what we do and what beliefs we hold will change and mold not only our lives in the future, but will mold and change this Ummah. Now there's a couple different things that I've been thinking about for a very long time. A couple different things that I had to deal with, and a couple different things that came to me as, a young Muslim growing up. And, I wasn't always practicing as a young person. But there are certain issues that I saw that were important to me that nobody really addressed. Nobody really talked about. When they brought up these issues, it was more of like, this is haram and stay away from it, and the books are closed. Right? No one wanted to go any further and actually talk about what are the realities of these things. So one of the first things I want to talk about is a phenomena called consumerism. Now this is something which the kuffar and the Muslims and everyone, there are people within them who agree upon the existence of consumerism. It's hard to find someone who says that actually consumerism doesn't exist. And that this, there's nothing wrong with consumerism and it doesn't affect our youth and our children and our society in any way. Now, what is consumerism? When you look for an official definition of consumerism, one of the truer definitions, or, you find a lot of definitions that are pro-consumerism, but one of the truer definitions is that consumerism is a myth that the individual will be gratified and integrated by consuming. Now let's break that down a little bit. Basically, the individual feels that by consuming, that they will be gratified, and it will quench their thirst, and they will feel happy, and they will feel like they have done something and have accomplished something. And along with that, they will feel integrated into this society. They will feel like they're a part of something by consuming or buying. Now, there's a couple manifestations of consumerism. One of them is temporary satisfaction. Now, we all agree, and no one's going to deny, that by buying certain things, you get a certain gratification, a certain amount of happiness. But the problem is that this happiness only lies in yourself for a very, very small period of time. And this is the first manifestation. It's temporary gratification. That you will buy this thing, or you will let yourself enjoy certain things that you're buying, or consuming, but that will only last for a short period of time. And you will notice, this is the reality, everybody can vouch for this, that after a little while, you're going to say, okay, that was nice and that was great, but let's move on. What's the next biggest thing, or something better that I can buy? Now, the second manifestation of consumerism is that the people who don't have the means or don't have the ability to buy these things or consume these things, they feel depressed. So on one hand, you have these people who are buying and buying and buying, and they're feeling happy, and they're feeling great, right, for that short period of time. And then on the other side, you have everyone else who can't afford these things. They can't afford to buy these things, and they're feeling depressed. They feel like they want to be part of all this. They want to be integrated. And, bring it back down to our level. Consumerism is not something, and it's not a concept which is written about in the books, and that's it. If you turn on the TV, right, or if you watch any movies, or if you listen to any music, anything you do in the society, you will realize that everything is being marketed to you. That this society revolves around selling everything to you and you buying. And us as Muslim youth, as shabab, we don't realize what is actually happening here. We don't realize that it is our brothers and our sisters under 16 years old, under 15 years old, making these shoes, for example. They're slaving day in and day out in bad conditions, working for less than pennies a day. And they're making these things that in turn, they sell back to us as Muslim youth, or as Muslims living in this country, or Muslims living anywhere, as a matter of fact. This is what is actually happening. So when we put on a t-shirt, or when we put on a certain amount of certain shoes, or when we buy a certain thing, or whatever we do, we don't realize that they're actually playing us. They're actually using our own brothers and sisters in countries like Malaysia and Bangladesh, and they're enslaving them to make these things, and they sell it back to us for a higher price. And we feel happy and we feel gratified for a short period of time. I spent some time in Egypt. I got a chance to go there and study Arabic for a short period of time. And one day, I was sitting after Maghrib outside my apartment, and I saw a group of shabab, young guys, some of them sitting on top of the hoods of cars and talking and chatting, and some of them had girls with them or whatever, and they were wearing their jeans and, their t-shirts, and obviously some shabab, they're a little behind, so they had Guns N' Roses t-shirts on or whatever, right? But they still had this on, right? And they felt, they felt cool, they felt they were a part of something. And I looked at them and I was watching them, and then time came, I went to bed, and that was the night. And then when I woke up for Fajr, I walked out of my apartment and I saw these same guys sitting there. طول الليل, the whole night they spent sitting there, smoking and talking and whatever they're doing. The whole night was spent in this. And now you think, how do we expect our ummah to progress? How do we expect something to happen in our ummah when our shabab are kept in the state of buying and consuming and importing this culture of constant buying and buying and buying? As the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that you give the son of Adam one mountain of gold and they won't be happy with it.